Welcome to APIs and the Composable Enterprise. I was talking to our Stage 7 sign holder over there about how all these technical presentations sound the same to her. They're all business software. I have a title that's kind of like that, right? Composable Enterprise. Enterprise, right? Enterprise software is what? It's people with technology. What made humans the most successful species on Earth, right? We work together and we make technology. And no other species do that, right? We put our tools together and we go do things. That's an enterprise, right? So I want to talk to you about composability. So before I do that, there is very little chance I'm going to say anything about the Salesforce product suite that's about the future. But if I do, don't buy anything based on that, obviously. So that's what this is all about. So what does composability matter? Well, look around you right now. I walked up here on stage, they gave me this little clicker, right? Technology. Got the laptop, technology, the screen, you got all these headphones, right? Your experience is made out of technology. A whole lot of different pieces of technology that work together to create this Dreamforce thing we've been doing for 3 days, right? And the way that the whole experience works isn't just this clicker and it's not just those headphones. It's all the technology has to work together. You have to compose the technology, right? So those of us involved in architecting Salesforce systems, we have to have some way to design the way things can work together at your company. Your company has got all kinds of technology, and some of it works together pretty well, and maybe some of it doesn't work together so well, right? Same thing as our homes. So I had an experience that relates. I have a laundry machine in my house. Anybody have a laundry machine in your house? You wash clothes? No, you don't wash clothes. I bought a black one. It's Samsung, right? It had a matching dryer, had all these nice buttons and modes and everything 3 years ago. I'm telling you this because it broke. Started wobbling, right? This fancy technology broke down. Sometimes technology does that, right? I've got a whole house full of technology in this one piece. You know, if the clothes don't drain and then you pick them up and you put them in the dryer, they're dripping wet. The dryer takes a really long time, right? So I needed to replace a piece of technology in my house. So, you know, the house is designed pretty well for that, right? When we went and bought the new washer, I got a really good recommendation from my appliance guy. It's supposed to last 25 years. Software vendors do that, don't they? Here's this awesome thing you should replace your existing thing with, right? Okay, so I went and brought this washer, and I had to take the old one out. Funny thing, when I pulled the old one out, the new one fit right in that spot. They were the same dimensions, right? The same height and width. And I had to plug the little faucets in the back, right? And they happen to be the right thread. And they take the same kind of hoses and plug into the same kind of electrical. You can imagine plugging in this big, expensive new piece of technology was pretty painless for a homeowner like me. And your technology can be like that in your business. Well, I've also got an oven from 1982 that my wife really wants to get rid of. You got a mainframe? Yeah, right? And it's built into the cabinets. And I have no idea what the electrical's like in the back. It's a weird size. It's kind of too small. That's why she wants to get rid of it, because every time we have Thanksgiving, you ever have to take like the side out to put the turkey in, right? And I can't, there's no room for a second oven. I am terrified of replacing my technology, right? Because it's not going to be like the washer, right? So if we want, as architects, to design systems that are more like my washer and less like my stove, there's ways to do that. Salesforce has this Well-Architected Framework, which is a set of values and principles for designing your software. And one of them is called composability. It's a part of the adaptable thing. Go on architect.salesforce.com. And I'm going to talk about composability for the whole house, not just for the laundry room, not just for the kitchen, for the whole house. This is where there's different kinds of architecture, right? So if application architecture is that stuff you do with unit tests and CI/CD and, you know, how do you design your user interfaces and what frameworks are going to use, that's important architecture work. But it's the time frame and the scope is confined to a single application, right? Well, you put a few applications together to design a solution, that's a bigger scope, right? And you can design composable solutions so that the application parts can be changed and updated and replaced. Well, guess what? The solution isn't the only thing going on in the enterprise. The enterprise is like being a homeowner. I got to own this place for a really long time. And this solution and that solution can butt heads and can cause problems, right? So we need to look at composability at that scale as well. And this is where APIs come into the picture. So the enterprise architecture composability requires requirements that make application architecture more difficult. Software developers, any software developers in my audience? You guys like simplicity? Yeah, things need to be simple. Well, I got bad news for you. The architect who comes in and gives you these extra requirements to go put a Mule application and an API spec and an API gateway, he's not just trying to make your life hard, right? He's got a whole house to take care of. It's not just this app, right? That's enterprise architecture, right? So what we're going to look at is the way to come to an enterprise architecture in your day-to-day projects that you have to do anyway with deadlines and budgets and people who need training. Somehow, we need to have a house we can live in, even though we work on one application at a time and one project at a time. So we have to have a way of going about doing our projects. Integration is the key to that. Integration is like those little faucets in the back of my laundry machine, right? It's got to get water. It's got to get electrical. I got to get the lint out of my dryer. Like there's standard ways that these technologies have to connect to each other so that you guys can hear me on the headphones and the microphone and the lights and the screen. This doesn't work unless all the technology is integrated, and you and I have to do that integration somehow. So we have choices. How do we do it, right? Well, the simplest way to do it, application developers, I'm not mad at you. This is the simplest. Point-to-point integration's quick. You already know how to write code in your language, so you build a little bit of logic, and you do an Apex callout or a stored procedure, and you go talk to something, and you connect to something, and it's not wrong. It's a good use of time and effort, and it builds simple, easy to maintain software, right? But what you have introduced is called a dependency. Dependencies are the units of coupling. Coupling is when one thing that you just finished building has to live a long time, and in order for it to work, something else has got to be there. Some data or some capability or some underlying system. This doesn't work without that, and I've got a dependency. And every time I add a point-to-point integration, I make it a little bit harder for the rest of the business to change things, right? Because I've got these applications stuck together rigidly with a point-to-point dependency, right? So it's a good idea in application architecture to use point-to-point integration. The problem is we're not just doing application architecture at our companies. We're building solutions that have to live in an enterprise. And point-to-point integration does not work long-term. I'm going to show you why, okay? Over time, you get more and more point-to-point integrations, and they pile up. And every one of them is another dependency. And now something happens over here, and it breaks something over there. And I know you have experienced that. Some data gets updated over here, and something doesn't work over there. A process doesn't run on time, another process can't start. And the more dependencies you have, the more these problems expand. It's non-linear, right? More dependencies make a higher risk of problem and a higher impact of problem. That's a double whammy, right? So that's why point-to-point integration is irresponsible in the long term, even though it is responsible in the short term, right? And that's why we need enterprise architecture to go with the solution and application architecture. So tight coupling, right? I want to point out the low visibility as well, because remember, developers aren't the only people in the company. Somebody has to operate the system, and they need to know what's going on when data is zapping around and running from place to place, right? That's very hard when the code is all over the place and the connections are unmanaged, right? Now, how do I know what's happening? I have to have a lot of people in a lot of places who know where all the bodies are buried, right? Instead, what we can do is we can add complexity. Sorry, developers. Sometimes complexity has a reason, okay? So you can put integration applications in between your systems. So you take that same integration logic you were going to build anyway, but you just don't put it in the application. You make another application. MuleSoft is a way you can make those. It's a standalone application, and its only job is integration, right? Now I get a single programming language for all my integrations. That's really good at just this one job. And I can monitor and track and deploy and unit test my integration logic. Now solution architecture is better, right? And long-term ownership of my integrations is possible because I've got these assets, I've got these applications that manage the communication. It's its own job, right? Well, MuleSoft and Anypoint is not just about solution architecture. I told you it's about enterprise architecture. What do all your systems do? Really, that's what you need to know. So you put APIs in between. You don't just put these integration applications in there. What you can do is take the extra time to build an API spec, and now I know that that data warehouse has a way to import, I don't know, customers and orders and inventory, and it has a way to export through, and I know specifically what the capabilities of each one of my systems are, because there's an API that has a name and a version, and it tells me what does that thing do, and we share the APIs. Anypoint gives me a place to put these APIs. That's a shared repository for the whole company. And now it's our asset. It's collectively owned and collectively improved and collectively managed. Right? That's what the APIs do for you. Because if we're going to own something for the long term, we take care of it, right? I don't know if you have any technology in your house that you own for your refrigerator and your air conditioner, and for my air conditioner, I got to call the HVAC guy every year, and he comes and cleans it all out and checks all the vents, and you take care of things that need to last a long time. APIs let you take care of your things and keep them separate and decoupled and monitor how they're connecting to each other, right? So this is the vision. MuleSoft calls this an application network. Anypoint platform is this set of tools that lets you build an application network, including Salesforce and everything else that's in your enterprise, right? But what we also need is a way to go about doing it, a way to work. Because enterprise architecture is not natural. I'm a developer at heart. I know you guys. I am you guys. I don't like complexity either, but it turns out sometimes you got to do the responsible thing, right? So we need a way to end up with all these APIs when you're trying to build simple software, right? So MuleSoft's got a method. It's called API-led connectivity. It's not something you do yourself, right? There's some activities we have to do as a group, right? API-led connectivity is a teamwork thing. We have to make APIs together. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to, first of all, agree on some different kinds of APIs so that we get the loose coupling, right? So MuleSoft named them experience APIs, process APIs, system APIs, so that we have different kinds that have different purposes and rules, right? And you can easily get the system APIs because you already know you have all these systems in your business. So each one, you can put an API in front of it, and that way it's not all stuck to the other ones. I don't have coupling. You don't see any arrows going left to right on the bottom layer, do you? Right? And system APIs give you encapsulation, single responsibility principle, real software development principles that make your code better are accomplished at the enterprise level with system APIs, right? So that's what system APIs do. And now you've got a bunch of system APIs. Well, you need something to use those to accomplish the real integration, right? So process APIs give you a reusable integration logic component, right? Something that can tie my APIs together and get stuff out of this one and send it to that one and retry things when they fail and do things in parallel and notify people when things break. You put that in the process APIs. So that way it's not mixed into your system APIs, right? There's a reason, there's a rationale behind the madness. And now at the top layer, we got these experience APIs because some APIs are like the front door of your house. You know, you got a front door and you got a bunch of bedroom doors, right? Well, they're different, right? You got a number on your front door, you have it painted nice, and you have a couple of extra locks. We need locks for those experience APIs. That's API security. API management does that, right? So you make an API for a real external consumer, and it has nice documentation and a way to sign up and use it, and it has versioning and release notes if you want to do that. You might have a developer portal. You don't want to do that for all of your APIs, just like you don't want to put a padlock on all your bedroom doors. Right? So your experience API is that. It's that front end. It's that nice one because it gives an experience to the API consumer. So because we make some of our APIs special, we don't have to make them all special and waste a lot of time, right? That's the experience API. So we agree as a group that when we go about doing a regular integration that we could just kind of make a little Apex call out. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to make a little system API over here. Yeah, so you don't plan, it's not the kind of architecture you're afraid of, where you draw this whole big diagram and you make a giant plan of 45 milestones. No, you actually just make one or two of these, and you don't even make the whole thing. You make just what you need in one system API, just what you need in the process API, and you do an integration. And then you come back, and you don't have to rewrite part of it. You don't have to rebuild things. You can reuse what you already built, add a little more to it, and enhance along the way, and you grow into this. over time, solution after solution after solution. That's the solution. That's the enterprise architecture part of it. You get reusability and you get to have nice things. It's both, right? Because we have a disciplined way of approaching how do we create our modules and compose them together to create integration solutions. That's it. That's API-led connectivity. So really, I wanted to leave you with that. There is a resource you can find that'll give you a lot of instructions about how to go about setting up API-led connectivity in your practice. There's a lot in Catalyst. It's even got a little trail in Trailhead. So I recommend you take that. That's one place you can go and learn more about doing this yourself. There's also some classes in Trailhead Academy. There's one of my instructors right there, yeah, about doing this as well. And yeah, I guess thanks for coming to the talk about composability. I am Ryan Haig. That's how you pronounce it. I care a lot about software, and I care a lot about. I like MuleSoft a lot. I've got all the swag. I work for Integration Quest, and I teach this stuff. And I'm the OKC meetup leader. Meetups.mulesoft.com is where you can find all of us that do a lot of this stuff. And I really appreciate if you do the survey, fill it out, say what you think about it, and maybe I'll come back next year, and maybe you'll get a coffee, right? Get a $5 gift card. So thank you very much. Come up after and we'll do questions.